Good morning and welcome to the Rabin Report. I'm your host, Elliot Rabin, so get ready to get triggered.
Yeah, we're live. Now we're live.
Perfect.
Okay. So just
I'm just gonna go
just
ahead
so
and
our
share that on
yep.
Facebook then.
Just so our viewers know, we just had some technical difficulties, so we were not live on Facebook, but we're finally back on, and we're discussing Trump and what his first week has been like.
Yep.
Now let's go back to Marshall, as you were saying.
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch it live, but I watched it afterwards, and it brought a happy tear to my eye seeing this all come to fruition, and seeing the Donald sworn in as president was it was a happy moment for me, and I think a presidential inauguration is a great event, whether your team won or your team lost. I think it's a wonderful celebration of America's democracy.
For me, it was very weird to see Obama on the sidelines. I don't
It's
know.
even funnier to see Clinton on the sideline.
Yeah. No, but to see Obama up there and not be like it was weird for me. Like, oh, like this guy, whether I liked him or not, he was the figure in my political conscious life. Like the 8 years that I formed a political opinion, he was there. Like as a kid, yeah, I heard a bit about George Bush, but he was the guy that I knew about. And all of a sudden, he became just an ordinary man for me again. Like as soon as Donald Trump put his hand on the Bible and got sworn in, that was it for me. And I don't know, it was a little bit of a bittersweet moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to call myself a fan of Obama because I'm not.
Obama! Randy Marsh just going screaming Obama. That's it.
But
And there's some truth to that too, actually, if you look into it.
he was, everything you would hear about Obama for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a symbol, like, you grew up. 8 years passed. He had his good moments, he had his bad moments, and foreign policy was very important during his time. Foreign policy is always important, but it was especially important during his time. And I don't know, it was kind of weird. That's about it.
So now that we've addressed what it was like to see Obama on the sidelines, what it was like to see, your boy Trump inaugurated. Let's talk about his first week. On the first day, Trump already signed 3 executive orders, including withdrawing from the TPP, stopping the funding.
It's the Trans-Pacific.
Trans-Pacific Partnership. He signed the Mexico gag rule.
Mexico City.
Mexico City, the policy.
Apparently that's a policy that's always been changing from like Democrats to Republicans.
It's always
every time,
changed,
right?
And he also signed a freeze on government hiring. Over the past few days, he's also signed executive orders on the Keystone XL pipeline and
The
Dakota Access Pipeline. And yesterday, he signed the executive order to build the wall. What do you make of all these executive orders? Does it seem too totalitarian for you? Does it seem like he really doesn't want to listen to anybody else?
So for me, I don't have an issue with executive orders. I think a lot of people do think that they're tyrannical. Even when Obama was, I don't like to see them overused, but I don't have a problem with their usage, especially at the beginning of a presidency when you kind of want to start things off on you want to hit the ground running, right? Things in politics take a very long time, and it allows you to hit the ground running and get things moving. And I think that there's nothing wrong with doing that inherently. We'll see later on in Trump's presidency if it becomes a problem. Like many would argue that it became a problem with Obama. But again, I mean, it's a part of the American democratic system. I don't see an issue with it. And I mean, people don't realize that executive orders do have limits. It's not like you can just do anything you want with an executive order. I mean, it's a carefully crafted procedure to prevent tyranny.
I think it's a very important aspect of any presidential inauguration. An example, I think one of the most important executive orders that happened maybe in the past 50 years that nobody really talks about anymore is with John F. Kennedy and his executive order that wanted to actually kind of almost go back onto the idea of mercantilism by just backing up the American dollar on gold. And as soon as
The gold standard.
the gold standard, exactly. And as soon as after he died and stuff, and then was it Lyndon?
Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah, Lyndon B. Johnson, when he took in, he immediately retracted that executive order. I think it's very important in terms of the aspect of how. Oh, there we go. That sounds better. On how. What a president's stance is going to be like for the next 4 years or possibly 8 years if he gets elected again.
I don't know. For me, I said it last week. I'll say it this week on the show. I made it pretty clear that I hated Hillary Clinton and I would pick Trump any day over Clinton. I know that's a very controversial statement, but it is what it is. I'm worried. Some of the I didn't agree with TPP. I'm happy about TPP. I didn't. I've got my own personal stance on the South China Sea conflict and how he's addressing that is kind of going with what I sort of follow. And then, you get to the stuff on the Dakota Access Pipeline. I hate the Dakota Access Pipeline. And to see the Standing Rock Chippewa tribe and all the other supporters and the solidarity within all the different movements come together and fight this martial law against the tribe and the pipeline, and just to see him with a stroke of his pen just throw it all away, it really bothered me. And I hate Keystone XL. I'm trying to be an environmentalist. I follow water. I'm trying to get rid of that. But Keystone XL, it's got its problems. It goes over the Colorado soft sand areas. It's just an oil spill waiting to happen. It hits aquifers and native reservations, and I don't know. I'm very worried that Trump will not listen to those around him, because the whole election I was sitting here and I'm like, he's got a whole team of advisors. He seems like a bit of a nut job, but he's got a whole team of advisors. He's not gonna launch all the nukes with one push of a button. But like with this, maybe he just wants to kind of quiet his critiques that he's not going to follow through with his plans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm skeptical, but I'm also nervous and worried. So I have my issues.
Yeah, I definitely think that the pipeline is going to be a very prominent issue over the next 2 years, maybe, depending on what's going to happen. Obviously, the government has authority over this land because technically it is the U.S. government's land.
Federal land.
Yeah, and there is a certain extent of an amount of respect that you need to take in terms of Aboriginal tribes and First Nation tribes, with their reserves and such. But I think if you're looking at on a moral and ethical standpoint, ethically it's kind of wrong because maybe you are destroying these burial grounds. But at the end of the day, I think people are just against it for the sake of being against it.
Mm-hmm.
I think people don't understand if somebody who supports it, why they support it. Because it's going to bring in thousands of jobs into the Canadian and American economy.
It's not even that. They did a survey, and the Keystone XL pipeline will only bring 35 permanent jobs. 35 permanent jobs.
Well, how about the temporary jobs during its construction?
No, there will be
that's a significant impact. Yeah.
What was it? 2,500.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. 2,500 construction jobs, but those disappeared in a year.
See, I think people maybe it's also a left and a right wing problem. Is that some people think if you're a liberal, then you automatically have to be against the pipeline, or if you're conservative, you're 100% for it no matter what.
No, you can have your own
I don't think
stance.
people understand that there's thousands of pipelines all around North America that we use to supply it. This thing is actually just going to make it more condensed, I believe, and just going to be it is a bigger pipeline,
it's
right?
extending it to make it more efficient.
Yeah, but it's a more efficient way instead of having that one instead of having multiple smaller ones that would be less efficient.
Basically, there's already a pipeline from here to Texas, but it's in a couple different links.
Yeah.
And they just kind of want to extend they want to build this whole line that kind of bypasses all of the other links. But that bypass goes through aquifers and soft ground parts, and that's the big issue.
That's the problem.
So, one of the rebuttals to this, somebody who's watching our Facebook Live video, Parker Shaw, says that, but it's building
Shout out to
infrastructure.
Parker Shaw right there.
But it's building infrastructure. What do you say to that? Building the pipeline, creating jobs. You've mentioned there could be oil spills, and you've mentioned only 35 full-time jobs. But the fact that it's building infrastructure, what do you say to that?
Infrastructure in terms of what? Like, it's not building a subway or it's not building a road.
Infrastructure is just it's just a word, really. I mean, I agree infrastructure is good, but is building infrastructure for the sake of building infrastructure a good thing, or is that a waste of money? I mean,
we're not
it's a good
China
question.
to build ghost
In-
cities.
yeah, exactly. And now when we're talking about the pipeline, I mean, I'll say it right now, I've been pretty happy with every single executive order so far. The pipelines, there's a lot of issues I take with them. I think that's the executive order I've taken the most issue with. I mean, I like to consider myself a green conservative. I do care about the environment. I think that
Climate change isn't real. Come on.
and I do believe in anthropogenic climate change. But I think that there's only so much that we can focus on the environment before we have to start looking at the economy. We can't start making huge compromises with the economy for the sake of the environment. And I mean, at some point, of course, I'd like to see a shift away from fossil fuels, but it's almost cruel to do that just because of the people who rely on it. Like entire provinces, Alberta and I mean a lot of Saskatchewan completely rely on it. Their economy is entirely based around it. And I mean, we don't want those turning into two more Manitobas. And I mean, I'm not trying to disparage Manitoba, but Manitobans know how rough shape that province is in.
Yeah, we don't want to treat Alberta like a fart in a room.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you just say the FART? I think that's pretty inappropriate
I think
for this.
I think in terms
discussion.
of like with Canada and its Canadian economy, like people like they still underestimate the ability and power and capability of Alberta as a province. They have, I think it's over 15% of Canada's GDP. An example, like let's say with the Liberal government or with, I don't know, God forbid if the Green Party gets elected, because I just think no one's going to take them seriously, right? Like if Elizabeth Warren actually got enough seats in the House.
Elizabeth.
I don't care. To be honest. The point being, she's a wonderful person, 100%. I just think if you're too focused on one particular set of values, then you're just going to miss the point in all of the other important issues on Canadian politics. Let's say with her or the Liberal Party, they do... It says, we're going to suspend fracking in the next 5 to 10 years, and we're going to try to transition Alberta into renewable energy source. There's a realistic possibility that maybe there's like some sort of recession or something like that, or of
that's what's
like
happening in Alberta right
yeah.
now.
And think about it. I remember 10 years ago, people here in like the GTA and stuff like this, like, oh, where you? Oh, I can't find a job. I'm going to go to Alberta.
Yeah.
What's going to happen then if they stop fracking and they stop oil, like they stop like producing
And a lot
oil
of people
there?
don't realize it is that a lot of these big oil companies are actually investing in alternative energies because everybody knows that oil isn't forever.
Yeah. That's
I'd
why
like
we
to
call it a
see-
non-renewable energy source.
I don't know how much they're investing. I don't know how fast they're working, but they are investing in alternative energies, and I'd really like to see them start shifting towards that. Until then, I do think it's very important to keep on supporting the oil industry so that they can further their work towards alternative energies.
So I want to focus on the executive order about the wall. That's been a highly controversial issue throughout the entire campaign, throughout the entire election. He's actually gone through with it. Many people have thought that it's just a metaphorical wall. Many people have thought that he's not going to do it at all, but he actually signed the order to build the wall. What does that mean for U.S. And Mexican relations?
Look, the big issue for me with the wall, all of a sudden people forget what a Republican government is like. They're all of a sudden so surprised at Trump's policies. This is what a Republican government is: anti-immigrant, illegal immigration, illegal trade routes. Like it's all about security, and that's what the wall is. For me, I honestly believe that the wall for Trump is almost like the Hoover Dam for FDR. I think that he's doing it just, think about how much concrete, rebar, fence, patrol, drones. Think about all of those people that need to build it. That's going to generate a lot of
Mhm.
jobs. For me, also, the big issue is payment. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Mexico will not pay for this freaking wall. It's not going to happen. Trump thinks that he can use the trade deficit with Mexico and the U.S. to pay for the wall, but that's not exactly how economics works. The president of Mexico has reinforced that he will not pay for the wall. The ex-vice president even swore at Trump and said he won't pay for this effing wall. Oh, excuse me, like it's not going to fly. Mexico will not pay for this damn wall. And I think that that's going to be a big rift between the U.S. and Mexico because the U.S. and Mexico actually conduct a lot of legal trade.
Mhm.
So,
in terms of we have a question from Juan Geraldo, in regards to not only the wall because just because it came earlier, but he says, isn't the executive order made to be used in emergencies and when deadlock in Congress has made compromise impossible? It feels like our new POTUS isn't even pretending that he gives a damn about proper procedure nor consensus building. So even in regards to the wall, it seems like he doesn't really want to listen to anybody else and he wants to go his way, my way or the highway. So what do you say to that? He said Obama signed tons of executive orders after he was unable to get Congress to pass things through.
Congress deadlock, yes. Emergencies, no.
The famous executive order from Obama was the one that amended Obamacare. That was during the congressional shutdown of the
Government shutdown.
And that's the most famous one. That's where so many people heard of the executive order for the first time. They had never heard of executive orders before. Yes, it's to be used in congressional deadlock, but it's not limited to that. It's not, there's no place it has to be used or not used. I mean, it's meant so that the president can change any area of government procedure, any branch of the government's procedures.
Now, Marshall, we have a comment saying that Marshall, unemployment in Alberta is at 8.5%, Calgary at 10, I believe.
That must be Sebastian.
That is correct. Alberta is, and this computer keeps shutting off, but
I didn't call him in to do that.
no, I know, but he says Alberta's already in heavy recession and is having a suicide epidemic.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, that is exactly part of the problem. You can't just abandon a province like that. It's cruel. It's inhumane. So I think that investing in oil is something that we have to, unfortunately, do. I think it's a necessary evil.
Look, like I make fun of the Parliament for calling Alberta a fart in the room, but like that's what Canada has treated Alberta like. I'm an NDP guy. I was kind of ecstatic when Rachel Notley was voted in. But it's a bad time. I'm not naive to the fact that in an economic recession, a conservative government is built. I say that hating myself, but you try to, like Rachel Notley tried as hard as she could to get around Alberta's recession without having to invest in oil. And this is a big problem that the Harper government and governments preceding Harper got Alberta in, where they threw all their eggs in one basket with oil. Because oil for a long time seemed like a safe investment. And it was, but then the OPEC crisis happened and it crashed. So Rachel Notley has been saying, yes, pipelines. We need them, we need jobs, we need to bring it back. And if she can do it, then Alberta won't hate Rachel Notley so much. There won't be the lock her up chance happening anymore. And I wish I knew more about what else Alberta has to offer. But I really hope that somehow they can get out of it without having to tap through all their oil. Because if you're trying to expedite oil as much as you can and you're trying to get it out and refine it, whatever, there's so much of a risk for spillage. Because like oil, in theory, is as much as you burn oil and you produce CO2, the worst of the environmental damage is in the spills, because the spills never get cleaned up. There's still oil in Alaska from Exxon Valdez. Like, it's not...
I think the only actual one time that was an oil spill was almost properly recovered was 2 days ago. when 200,000 liters of oil were spilled like near a natural reservation camp 30 kilometers south of Regina, I believe.
Yeah.
And they recovered 170 liters of the 200,000.
Yeah.
And I think like
Wait,
most
170 of the
170,000.
200,000.
sorry, 170,000
Oh,
of
I
the
was
200,000. My bad.
Jeez.
I don't know. So it was actually I think that's somewhat effective,
Yeah.
Impressive for 2 days.
impressive for
No,
a day. Yeah.
definitely, and
Mhm.
I commend whoever sponsored the cleanup to do that.
Yeah.
But also, like,
I think it's an important responsibility of those corporations to
Yeah.
enact environmental policies.
there was a big spill in Michigan.
Yeah.
Some odd 5-6 years ago,
Mhm.
and they what the Michigan government did was they put a sort of bed of rock on the oil, and they would hope like the rock veins would like suck it up, and then they would put this sort of sponge, and then they would put grass and mud, and then it absorbs it all, and then grass grows and whatever. Basically, this environmentalist went illegally. He went to the cleanup site. He stuck his hand in the ground. 2 years later, he pulled it out. He washed his hand, and it's all black with oil.
Mhm.
Companies don't invest enough in cleaning up.
Mhm.
They cover it up,
Yeah.
and this has been found time and time and time.
And that's the
again.
problem right there.
And that's the problem.
I don't think that anybody would have an issue with building these pipelines
Yeah.
and like generating all this revenue
Like, look,
if-
yeah.
if there was a solid plan to recover it in case of an emergency.
Agreed. I'm pro pipeline, but I'm pro pipeline reform. I don't think it's done the right way.
No.
Exactly, that's the main
As-
problem right
as
there. They don't do it right.
anti-regulation as I am, I think that's certainly one area where there needs to be more
Mhm.
regulation.
There needs to be intense screening. There can't be a penny pinching company running
Mhm.
a pipeline. You don't want another Lac-Mégantic. Like, it's not. This isn't what you want from the environment.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And I'm against oil. I'm pro renewable energy. But if you're gonna build a pipeline, do it the right way.
Mhm.
Like, you want Line 9. Like, Enbridge is trying to run Line 9 through Montreal and under the streets of Toronto.
Whoa,
If there's a burst under the streets of Toronto,
we're
God
screwed.
help us.
We're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we have another question from our friend Juan, and he wants to know about Trump and Putin.
I'll actually read this. If you
Okay,
don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead and read.
So he says, I don't follow the news surrounding politics in general, so this election has really given me a reason to stay away. But he's saying, people are saying he's in some sort of alliance with Vladimir Putin. What is the United States' current relationship with Russia?
So
I think that's more of an opinion on like what we think
I've
here.
got
I
a bit
think-
of cognitive
Yes,
dissonance going on the matter, because one thing I loved about Stephen Harper was Stephen Harper had the balls when no other world leader did to say to Putin, get out of Russia or get out of
Mhm.
Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great because, I mean, I really don't like Russia being in Crimea.
Mhm.
I don't know, yeah, that
But
does
at the
make
same
sense.
time, Russia's a very powerful ally to have, especially
Yeah.
with the current geopolitical, global conflicts going on right now with Syria. And I mean, I hate to say this, I think Russia's in the right on the Syria matter. I don't think anybody's in the right, but I think they're less in the wrong. And, you know, I just think that with ISIS being an ever-looming threat, I think Russia is a great ally to have. With North Korea, who knows if they're a threat or not? I mean, they very well could be. They very well could not be whatsoever. Again, Russia is a wonderful ally to have. So it's tough for me to say this. I really hate to say this, but I do think being allies with Russia is the better option, practically.
I think
I completely disagree.
I actually, well, here, okay,
Actually,
we're actually
no.
going to have an argument now. Good. We need that. I think that Russia's obviously, the fact that it's in Ukraine is completely, I completely disagree with it. I don't think it should be there. They should not have taken over Crimea. But having Russia as an ally, everybody says it's a terrible idea. It's not a terrible idea. When two superpowers are allies, it makes it safer for them and the world. If you have two nuclear superpowers, even with a terrible relationship, it makes everybody in the world scared. You have the smaller countries that are scared. You have Canada, for example, that's always linked to the United States. No matter what the U.S. does, Canada's like the little brother who has to go along, right?
I hate the United States, to be honest, sometimes. Actually,
So-
honestly, in terms of like American exceptionalism and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like, we put the United States on this particular pedestal, and like,
Mhm.
why do we have to do that?
And I mean, I don't think it'll ever stop being that
I think
way.
it's
Just because
of
they have.
Canadian unexceptionalism. I think people don't think our country's great enough, which
I think
It's
Canada's
silly.
an amazing country.
Yeah, well, I
It
mean,
is an amazing.
and
Damn well proud to be patriotic about that kind of
good,
stuff.
because there's so little social cohesion in our country, and people don't feel Canadian. People aren't proud of their country. It's terrible.
You know, one of the most important Canadian things I think anybody should participate in.
Going to Tim Hortons.
I wouldn't say that because their coffee's kind of crap. It's key,
It's
but
key.
the coffee's kind of crap.
Yeah, you gotta
Starbucks
do
is crap too.
You gotta do it.
You got to go with local businesses. Okay.
Yeah.
Point being, regardless if you like hockey or not, go to a hockey game.
Yeah.
Watch everybody sing the national anthem together.
No,
It makes you. It almost makes you cry sometimes, man.
emotional.
It's a very
It's
emotional
very
thing,
emotional.
Yeah.
and it makes you proud to be Canadian and stuff like that.
But Pierre
Yeah.
Trudeau hates Canada. Ruins for all of us.
Look, I have so much to say about the Russia and the U.S. I am
Loud and proud, my friend.
I am I'm a history major. My favorite part of history is the Cold War because it's the most absolute ridiculous thing for me in the history of man.
I think it's the most interesting part of history, to be honest.
It's literally just two countries trying to see who has the bigger chest.
Yeah, it's like my cojones are bigger than your cojones. Like, it's
Like,
crazy.
It was like and I think it's still going on in a way. But okay,
Like a pseudo Cold War, maybe.
like Harper and Putin will be like Harper and Obama, Freudian slip. Harper and Obama will be like, oh, Putin, get out of Ukraine. You know what? The U.S. get out of everywhere you've been. Get out of Iraq. Get out of Puerto Rico. Get out of Guam.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of
The Cayman Islands.
get out of
No, the Virgin Islands.
Well, no, that was bought.
yeah.
So-
Oh, I guess. It's
It's
fine.
Netherlands.
Going.
Get out of
What else
Alaska.
did they invade in South America? Guam,
Chile.
Chile.
Well, they didn't invade, but they interfered. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had insurgents in Colombia as well.
Venezuela, Colombia.
Yeah.
Get out of everywhere you've been. How dare you say to
Well,
Russia,
I mean-
get out of Ukraine?
In modern history,
So you
the US
think-
has never annexed
You think
anything.
you wait,
No, that's
Adam?
true.
You think that Stephen Harper shouldn't have said that?
No, I think he should have, but it was kind of like, okay, and like that's literally what Putin told
Well,
me.
you-
I mean,
it
it's,
kind
it's
of-
not hypocritical for Harper. Canada's never.
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm saying, okay, let's talk about the U.S.
Mhm.
Backtrack on Canada.
Mhm.
But just to say that, like, oh, Putin was like, how can we get out of summer? We haven't even been.
Mhm.
And then Harper was like, you're right, and kind of moved on with his life. But,
So
like, it's this sort of this back and forth of like, how can Putin let Assad gas his people? It's like, you've had Aboriginal communities that have been on a boil water alert for 40 years. How can you let that happen to your people?
we actually have a comment about that in regards to Putin. And it was from Christopher. He says, "Oh yeah, bombing civilian-packed areas and disrespecting ceasefires with targeted missile strikes. Russia has Syria locked down, my man."
Yeah,
you know,
no,
so-
they did.
Wait, I don't understand what.
I don't know the context.
I think he's
But
replying
if
to
he's like-
Sebastian when he says like it's within Russia's best interest to keep both Syria and Ukraine. Russia
Oh.
can't afford to lose political influence. So like he's disagreeing with what like I'm kind of paraphrasing. I don't want to speak for him, but he's like disagreeing with what in terms of like Russia's power and authority in Syria and Ukraine.
Oh, okay. I'd like to reply to Christopher's first comment. Earlier, you mentioned supporting most of Trump's executive orders so far. Can you elaborate on your support of the removal of Obamacare and defunding of Planned Parenthood, as well as the more restrictive abortion laws that come with that?
That's a great
Those-
question.
but those aren't
I think
executive
Obamacare
orders.
Should be completely. Yeah, those actually neither of those are.
Yeah, they're
executive
not
orders, but
executive, but
they
they
very well
could be
could be.
though. Yeah.
removal of Obamacare. Bring it on, please.
Yeah, we should remove
Defunding of
Obamacare.
Planned-
Yeah.
Defunding of Planned Parenthood, please. Restrictive abortion laws. I don't know about that.
See, now you're going to get in a lot of hot water for saying defunding
yeah,
Planned
like-
Parenthood. So tell us why.
Yeah, why don't you
Oh,
just
why?
say
it's-
Planned Parenthood?
I mean, have you seen the salary of the CEO of Planned Parenthood? Why is she a millionaire? I mean, this is supposed to be a non-profit organization. Am I right? Why is this?
Is this funny? Isn't
why
it
is
funny
this
to see that? Yeah,
funded?
it's funny to see non-profit organizations make the most money.
CEO,
Mhm.
a millionaire, like five. I think her net worth like five, or her salary is like 500, or it could be 50 million a year. Either way, that's awful.
But mismanagement of money, the women that use Planned Parenthood have to suffer for that and not get care for that.
I mean, I think they should be able to go and get those services, but not on taxpayers' dollar. I don't.
Well, no, Adam.
Well,
come on.
Well, what about what
Tell-
about families that necessarily would need that though? Because Planned Parenthood is like people think that Planned Parenthood is only funding like abortion and stuff like that.
It's
That's not at all.
Abortion
They're
factory.
they're helping like with like ultrasounds and like any procedures like maybe
ultrasounds.
if they're trying to like if the woman maybe wants to keep the kid, they have that type of resources available
Pap
to help them.
tests, condoms, sex ed, like all this stuff that's provided. Yeah,
Sex ed conversations are weird, man. You ever had somebody from Planned Parenthood talk to you about sex ed?
Yeah, we had a person come to us.
No, I'm
Dumb.
well aware that abortions are a very small
It's the
percentage
dumbest
of
thing on the
Planned
planet.
Parenthood's, duties, but I think that all those services can be relegated to non-taxpayer funded non-profit services, non-profit organizations.
But then you have to pay for them, and the people that go to Planned Parenthood because they can't afford the care in the states. Like there's the children's med plan, but there's no med plan for women. Like the women need Planned Parenthood, and it's imperative that you support Planned Parenthood, because in places that don't have proper sex education have higher pregnancy rates.
Mm-hmm.
Places that don't have care for women, because like, you know, if you defund these places, then you go to sketch places, and then sketch places lead to infections which burden the health system.
Yeah. Like you hear those horror stories like with like a coat hanger or something
coat
like
hanger
that.
abortions. Like, as crude as that sounds,
It's disgusting.
It's absolutely disgusting. And Planned Parenthood does so much more than that. It gives women a safe place to go. It gives women a comfortable place to go, run by women for women.
So, in regards to talking about women, let's talk about the Women's March. I don't mean to cut this debate off, but I've been meaning to ask this question a lot. The Women's March heavily protested Donald Trump's presidency. The day after his inauguration, there were protests all over the U.S. and in Canada as well, even here in Toronto. There were many prominent speakers at the ones in the U.S., including Madonna, who stated that she had thoughts of bombing the White House. Is this type, and then Ashley Judd also referred to Donald Trump thinking sexually about his daughter and all these types of, kind of disgusting comments. But is this type of language and behavior empowering or hurtful to the younger generations watching this unfold? Because I just want to say this.
Yeah.
I understand what they want. They want equality. They want to empower women, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think they're going about it the right way. What's your take on it?
Can I put Madonna's comments aside for 2 minutes and just say that I find it's ridiculous the people that called this protest un-American.
Oh yeah, I don't think
There
it was
were
un-American.
so many people that called this protest un-American. The whole foundation of America was
the right to
because-
protest.
was the right to protest, and there was a revolution. The dumping tea into the Boston.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Into the Boston Harbor.
A few things
how
are more American than protest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just wanted to say that I don't necessarily agree with Madonna bombing the White House, but like, if
But she
you're-
actually
if
said
you're
that,
on-
right?
Yeah.
Oh
If
my
you're on a
god.
stage with like 5 million people watching you, you're under so much heat. You're riled up. You've got adrenaline through your body. I would probably say, let's. blow
Why do
up the
people
White
still
House.
care about Madonna?
I
She's
agree.
dead.
I mean, I hate to say this, but
Gonna
like,
get a lot of flack
I
from
don't-
some Madonna fans.
I don't see.
but,
I don't see the big issue with it. Like she's an entertainer. She's being hyperbolic. Like she's not obviously encouraging people to bomb the White House.
Like how much further is that than Trump saying punch protesters in the face?
Yeah.
I'll pay your fines.
I
Oh, never mind.
I don't know. For
I was
me,
gonna talk about
I
RSU
think,
politics.
for
With our
me-
president, that's why.
I think that
Can we talk about that later?
Regardless-
keep that aside.
Okay, cool.
regardless of Madonna or Trump, I think that advocating violence is just not the answer.
Agreed.
Like the fact that
Agreed.
Madonna said that, I think is disgusting, and the fact that Trump said that punch protesters, I think that's wrong too.
But you don't
So-
think it's disgusting?
Okay, they're both disgusting. They're both wrong. I was trying to use a synonym there.
Okay.
Pardon me for
Repulsive,
trying to have a yeah.
There you go.
I think they're both equally detrimental and not right for especially the younger generations watching. Kids are growing up to see this. They're being taught this in school, and I don't see the benefit in it. I think civil discourse is the only way to accomplish anything.
No,
Yeah, that would be-
no, but you see, like, look, we're talking about Madonna, who's a walking skeleton, saying how she'd bomb the White House, but we're forgetting all of the wonderful things that happened during that Women's March. Biggest protest in U.S. history.
Really?
All these biggest protest in U.S. history. all these marginalized groups came together in solidarity. There was little to no riots. It was peaceful. It was a march. It was, you have prominent feminists. What's her name? Linda Ronsour.
Yeah.
Linda Ronsour, Gloria Steinem.
Scarlett
I'm
Johansson.
drawing so
She's not
many
like
blanks.
she's pretty.
Amber
Scarlet-
Rose or something like that was there.
No,
No?
there was a black woman talking about Palestine.
Anyway,
There were so many prominent speakers that all came together. Alicia Keys gave a powerful poem.
She's chill.
We're
She's pretty cool.
She's kind of cute.
Yeah.
And we're
Her
forgetting.
music, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And we're forgetting all of that. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, Madonna wants to bomb the White House. Meh. But like, all of this happened that day as well. So I think it's important that not necessarily to put Madonna's comments aside, but to put Madonna's comments aside.
Yeah, I don't care about Obama or Madonna's comments.
I mean, you don't care about Obama either. Right?
Yeah, I don't. But I mean, I think like it was a silly thing to say, but it was just that. It was a silly thing to say. Like I know like her intentions obviously were not for anybody to bomb the White House. I don't like Madonna. I actually, that's a lie. I love Madonna.
Nah.
I don't like her personality. I love her music. I love Papa Don't Preach.
Can she just go to retirement, please? Like that's the main
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good time, but I don't support Madonna necessarily, but I don't think it was that big of a deal. I think it was just her being hyperbolic, her being an
She got
entertainer.
hired.
Yeah, I don't really care. Now what was? Oh yeah, the Women's March. I went to the Women's March in Toronto.
and how'd you
How many
find it?
people were there? Did they have an estimate?
60,000.
Really?
Yeah.
In like all just Nathan Phillips Square.
Marching from somewhere to
From Queen's Park to
Yeah,
Nathan
Queen's
Phillips Square.
Oh, okay.
Park. I thought it was.
The
silly at times.
be
defeated. The whole thing, they made it all about
This
this.
is like the new
signs.
Robin Report theme song.
Right?
What was that?
What they say in the marches.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Um,
just singing
no.
something.
They,
Anyway,
they made the whole thing about the signs. There's so much focus on these silly drawings of Donald Trump, and I mean, people will say that they had specific goals in mind. That's always my issue. When there's a protest and there's no goal, there's no proposal in mind. Like, what do you? I don't know. It just seems so unorganized, so like general, so broad. It didn't seem like it was doing anything.
I
A
don't
bunch of women wearing vagina hats on their heads, like
It's actually what do they call it?
the pussycat hat.
Yeah, the pussycat hat. That's what
No,
they're
the
using.
whole, well, I think there was a goal actually. The whole goal that I saw was that it's women empowerment because, whether there is a reason to be scared or not with the Trump administration, women are scared. Women are frightened. Their health services.
And
are
I
taken away.
think they have a right to
They
be, of
have
course.
a right to be. Like Kellyanne Conway does not represent America's women. I'm sorry to say.
She's just one
Tony
person.
Lahren does not represent America's women.
Mhm.
Betty DeVos does not represent America's women. And they have a right to be scared. So it's sort of like, hey, we are here. We are powerful. You will not silence us.
Mhm.
Shia LaBeouf's live stream, they will not divide us. I think that has a role to play in women. And, women have been jumping through hurdles and going through so much crap to get to where a man is. And they haven't even made it there yet due to patriarchy and other factors. But, any place that empowers women, go for it. There doesn't need to be like, we want this and we want it this time and we want it here. It doesn't need to be structured black and white. It can be just, a bunch of cool women coming together and being like, hey, we're women, we're powerful, let's do this.
Now, I suppose I think that a protest to actually get anywhere should have a more specific goal. I apologize. Should have a more specific goal. I don't see anything necessarily
Some
wrong
really good comments on
with
the
it
report,
as
yeah.
that they weren't being destructive. And I don't know if any of you saw it. There's a lot of like Black Lives Matter advocates complaining about how women at the Women's March weren't getting beat up because
I like the
when
public-
we protest, we get beat up. How come when white people protest, they don't get beat up? I don't know. Like they weren't burning down buildings, they weren't smashing windows. Maybe just don't do that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was a peaceful protest. I didn't.
Yeah, they're
necessarily
typically not
agree with
masked
it,
or
but
anything like that with balaclavas and stuff.
There was no destruction. I didn't agree with it overall, but I didn't have a huge issue.
We
with
just
it.
have a really good comment right here. It's like, it's more of a meme if anything. But Chris says like, oh, why wasn't the Women's March in March? Think about that. It really makes
so
me think.
we do have
He's not that good with jokes.
very limited time left. I had another question that was about SNL writer Katie Rich tweeting that 10-year-old Barron Trump would be the very first homeschool shooter. But we don't have time, so I'm just going to ask, what do we expect to see in the coming weeks and the first 100 days of the Trump presidency? What else is to come?
I want to go off something Marshall educated me about, and saying that George Bush was not a Republican. He was a big government neocon.
Well, he was a Republican. He wasn't a conservative.
Yeah, he wasn't a conservative. I think that we're going to see, for the first time since Reagan, we're going to see a conservative government, and people have forgotten what that's like.
Like, would you consider, like, you classify former President Bush as, like, neoconservative, or?
He's a big government neocon, and there's nothing less conservative than a neoconservative.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I'm nervous. I'm worried about the environment. You see his gag order on the National Park Twitter accounts and whatnot. I'm scared for the environment. I'm scared for the indigenous people, for marginalized groups, for Muslims. I just hope that it's not as bad as that.
Mm-hmm. Marshall?
I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more restrictions on immigration, on illegal immigration, especially. I'm more than happy to welcome that. I don't want to see too much restriction on abortion. I think that restriction on abortion can certainly go too far. I think we very well might see that, but let's hope not. And I think that I really hope that the environmental scientists aren't suppressed too much, because that was a big issue I had with Harper. But, we'll see. There's no way of knowing just yet. I think the next week or so will be very telling.
And Daniel?
I personally think in the next 100 days, like, I'm scared in terms, actually more for the United States economy, because if, let's say, they have an increased amount of immigration and illegal immigration policies, like, against it, and let's say there's, like, a massive exodus, like a diaspora of immigrants from Central and South America, and seeing, like, maybe those jobs and how it's going to affect their national economy in terms of, like, those lower like labor jobs and stuff like that. I think that's the major issue for me, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
And definitely, I think I'm concerned about, like, with the Mexico laws in terms of sanctuary cities, and I would say, I'm like, even like now, like, with everything that's happened, is like, is an illegal immigrant really gonna have the balls to try to get into this country now? Like, even if there is a sanctuary city, even though, because they're gonna start cracking down on that too, right?
Now what? So what I'm excited for it. What's to come? Just because it's entertaining as hell, But one of the things I'm very concerned about is the fact that a report came out that Trump, just checking the time, Trump might stop funding NPR and PBS as much. And being an arts kid, that's kind of important, especially because, like, public access, and, it's
okay. What do you think about the other types of arts then?
In what sense?
Like music, theater, drama, visual art.
I think they're all important. But that was just a report that said just specifically NPR and PBS.
I think any type of arts like that should be salvaged.
I think they should be salvaged. I think they should be preserved, and I think they should be funded, because, even museums, people aren't as interested in museums anymore. But the fact that they exist need to be sustained.
Art galleries too, man. They're very crucial.
Yeah. So we do have
the
about
AGO, beautiful institution.
30 seconds left. Let's just get the music ready.
Final comment: defund everything.
Defund just everything.
Legalize all recreational drugs.
Well, he defunded. Technically, Trump defunded himself, because he's only being paid $1 a year, which is
his whole salary is going.
He took $1 a year. So wow. I mean, personally, hopefully he'll make $8.
He's got enough money.
But yeah, he does. And like
Betsy DeVos is also on the $1 salary.
DeVos, she is.
Grizzlies are in schools. That's why we need guns.
Yeah, so that was our show for this week. Thank you to everybody that tuned in and that messaged us live. And remember, Adam is running. So Marshall.
Hopefully, we can discuss more stuff about the RSU in the coming future.
Marshall and Daniel, make sure you go get that vote, or you're off the show. But yeah. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. We'll be back same day, same time, same people, different topic. Have a good day, everybody.